back.
Vimutti. Vimutti. This Ken mentions Vimutti. Check the word. Liberation. Liberation. The release from suffering, samsara, attained through a realization of the Four Noble Truths. In the Mahayana, there are three so-called gates to liberation, which are said to facilitate release. Emptiness, i.e. shunyata, signlessness, or the absence of perceptual forms, animitta, and wishlessness, the absence of purposes of desires, apranidana. To these, a fourth item is sometimes added, namely intrinsic luminosity, prakriti prabhasvara. In Pali sources, two kinds of gates of liberation, vimokha, mukha, are distinguished, namely freedom through understanding, panya vimutti, and freedom through mind, chitta vimutti. The former is intellectual in nature and cultivated through the practice of insight meditation, vipassana, while the latter involves transic states of consciousness and is cultivated through calming meditation, samatha. The ideal is to be one who is freed in both ways, ubato vaga vimutta, as the Buddha was understood to be. But it is thought to be possible to attain liberation through insight alone, panya vimutti. Such a one is then known as dry-eyed or dry-visioned, sukha vipassaka.
Who is dried-eyed?
And that's all. Yeah, dried-eyed, sukha vipassaka. That's all I have to say about that, as Forrest Gump would say.
Who is dried-eyed?
The one that is liberated through insight alone, panya vimutti.
That
I guess
is our mission.
I guess
to liberate through thinking clearly.
critically.
Critically? What is
Yep.
critical thinking? That we criticize?
Insightful thinking.
Insightful?
Well, it's critical thinking brings insight, right? So critical thinking is insightful. Vipassanic thinking.
So we must wake up and think
Are we going to be
critically.
That's right. Which implies that you're thinking clearly, obviously.
So we're like a needle in the haystack, and to find our Atman, we have to burn our delusions until there's nothing left but that Atman.
You know that nibbana is when the fire has gone up. Nib is to put out, to snuff. Nibbana is the snuffing out of the fire.
And how?
But it has to have a fire first.
How is the fire snuffed out when everything is burnt?
Right, because the needle, which is made out of metal, is not non-functional because it is phenomenal. It is subjective. It is the omega point I was reading about that this morning, the omega point.
So I'm going to get a matchstick and burn my body.
So what does that mean?
Free.
You know, what does that mean? You know, what is the equivalent to burning your body?
Burning.
Sifting through the haystack, sifting through your mind, seeing through your mind.
My 5 heaps.
Your 5 senses. Your 5 senses. The 5 gates of perception.
Oh. This meeting will end in 10 minutes. I will burn my 5 heaps, my 5 aggregates, 5 skandhas, 5 khandhas. What are they?
So basically,
form, feelings, consciousnesses.
Well, first it's
let's look it up. I forget.
Yeah, perceptions. It's the physical perceptions. But they say something important. There must be contact first. In order to have perception, there must be contact. There must be a point of contact between the inner world and the outside world, between the mind and the rupa. Now, whether rupa is the whole world, including your body, or rupa is your body outside of the world, which I contend it is impossible, because your rupa is the world, and so is your mind. But the world is one, so now my rupa are also one. Just distinct aspects of the same non-aspectual being, and being understood as a word, not as a thing or an entity. Being as a process, an eternal process of change.
The 5 aggregates I will share. Oh, let's see. Share screen. The 5 aggregates. There they are. Oh. Oh. Let's see. Add source. Screen capture. Window capture. Where are they? There we go. The 5 aggregates are form, sensations, perceptions, mental activities, and consciousnesses. What's the difference between mental activity or formations and consciousnesses? I say consciousnesses.
It's the same as the difference between thinking and meta-thinking. Thinking about things versus thinking about thinking.
So mental activity is thinking and consciousnesses are meta-thinkings?
Is meta-thinking, yeah.
So we need to have contact.
Yeah.
You said
if there is no contact, without contact there is no perception.
Without contact there is no perception. We need to
Please tell me.
We need to have contact to have perception, to have sensations or feelings, to have form, to have mental activity, to have consciousnesses.
Yeah. You just described the paticca samuppada, the codependent arising. You just described the codependent arising. If you check Samit the codependent arising, you will see that in there.
Codependent arising. Pratitya samutpada. That's the Sanskrit. You see.
Mm-hmm.
There it is. What does it mean? Dependent origination or dependent arising. All dharmas, phenomena arise in dependence upon other dharmas. Aha! There's the key. From there we can derive the emptinesses of all dharmas. That there is the emptiness of inherent existence of all things. If this exists, that exists. If this ceases to exist, that also ceases to exist. The basic principle is that all things
ceases to exist.
Arise in dependence on other things.
Ceases to exist, perception ceases to exist. If perception ceases to exist, sensations or feelings cease to exist, and so on and so forth.
Where are they? The 12 are there. Are they listed? There. The 12 nidanas is found in numerous sources. Some of the early texts. Oh. Let's see. Oh. So, avidya, not knowledge. Not vidya, knowledge. Not knowing. Not. This is called ignorance. Nescience. Necio. Then, because of that, we develop samskara. Sankara. What is sankara? Volitional formations.
That's thinking. That's
volitional. Volitional as in will. Formations.
And that's the thinking you were talking about. And then after that, you see
fabrications, constructions.
See, and under that you see consciousness, discernment, sense.
We make things up. With samskara, we make things up. Through volition, we form things, fabricate. Then we have consciousnesses, discernments, sense consciousnesses. There are 6 types of consciousnesses. The eye, ear, nose, throat, doctor. The tongue, body, intellect consciousness. Then namarupa, name and form. We give things names. This is a cup, and it looks like so, and it functions this way. Then what is salayatana? This is the sense bases of eye, ear, nose, tongue, and mind. 6 sense bases. But
you see the context that I just mentioned right underneath?
Then what is the difference between vijnana that includes the eye, ear, nose, etc., and this one, 6 sense bases, the sense basis of them. And then we have contact. We have contact. Houston, we have contact. And then we have feeling. I don't like this. This is too hot or too cold. Then, oh, we got kicked out. There we go. I'm back. Can you hear me? Let's see. I hope I can. I'm going to get. Let's see. I'll get a remove this guy and add. There we go. Bring this one over here. Whoa. There we go. Oh. Oh. Then you go over here. Let's see, you go shrink it maybe. Well, zoom. Oh. Whoa. Oh. Where's that list? Oh no, that's not it. Oh. Welcome back. We still Pino.
Yeah.
For
Hello.
round 2 of Wake Up and Think Critically, Clearly, Concisely.
So, where were we? We were making a parallel between Paticca the 12 links, the dependent co-arising, and we're comparing that to the five Skandhas, right?
Skandhas.
Skandhas. The 5 Skandhas. So the 5 Skandhas are part of the 12 links. Because everything is interrelated. Everything is like a yin yang that is infinite and eternal.
The 5 aggregates are form, sensation, perceptions, mental activity, or formations. There's the samskara. Right? And consciousness, vijnana, life force, discernment.
Metta.
Then, because it reminds us of codependent arising, we investigated codependent arising in the list. Where is it? There it is. Is there. We start with ignorance, then volitional formations, then consciousness or discernment. There's one of the 5 aggregates. Then name and form, or then the 6th sense basis, then contact, then feeling, craving, desire, greed. There's the cause of dukkha. So if we get to here and we skip it, we'll be okay. or in order to get to clinging and existence, we have to go through craving. Like we crave to exist. Somehow we craved to be here. Somehow before we were born or conceived, we had a craving. I want to exist. And so we had existence, and then we had birth.
I don't think we have a choice. There is no choice. There is no choice, because there is no nirvana without samsara, and there's no samsara without nirvana. So basically...
But there's choice right here. Volitional. Doesn't volition mean that we have a choice? Or we have a will?
Yes. Yes. So, but we have no choice to be. And since to be is both samsara and nirvana, the choice is how you, each consciousness or meta thinking, interprets the inevitable dipole, the inevitable dynamic of being and non-being, of nirvana or samsara and nirvana. So the volition is not at the conjunction of, okay, are we going to have life or not? Life is going to happen no matter what, because that's part of nature, that's part of reality. So the phenomenal part of reality, which is what we call samsara, and the noumenal part of reality, which is nibbana, the extinguishing, the seeing through things, are inevitable. Both sides are inevitable, because being, pure being, as a verb, is inevitable due to the quantum nature of reality. Because zero doesn't exist for longer than a Planck second. So, since nirvana and samsara are inevitable, and they are inevitably also codependent, the only volition is at the consciousness level on how to interpret that inevitable dipole. And that's where vidya, understanding, vidya is the opposite of avidya, which is ignorance. So knowledge or wisdom, panya, that's the only free will of the mind. And it's a thing of consciousness, not of the zero or the one.
So
in between.
So you're saying that we had no choice because of avidya, non-knowledge.
Just as there is avidya, there is
because of,
just as there is,
because of ignorance, there is action. or constructing activities. So if that's why philosophers do nothing, they have eliminated their ignorance and they do nothing, and that's why they starve to death. Or they get sentenced to death, like Socrates. He had so much non-ignorance that they had to eliminate him. Then, but if we want to do something, we have to develop ignorance. Because if we have too much knowledge, then that freezes us into non-action. So, ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is bliss because
that doesn't mean you don't brush your teeth anymore.
It leads to action.
It freezes us. It freezes us. It extinguishes. It extinguishes tanha, the thirst. But you don't stop brushing your teeth or eating or going to bed or waking up or going to work or relating to the world. It is a different. It's a different way. It's a different kind of stopping. It's a paralysis. It's a paralysis of the base thirst. See? You must not think that when you attain nirvana, you stop living. You see where I'm going with this?
You're saying that through
you're not burning your body. You're burning ignorance. You know, when you're burning the haystack, what you're doing is burning your ignorance. You're not burning yourself or your thoughts. So, on the contrary.
Through non-ignorance, out of that, let's say that we develop non-ignorance, so that ends volitional formations, and volitional formations could be
running after money or things, materialism, or ego, running after your ego, yourself, yourself for physical sense.
Self-grasping ignorance. So through non-ignorance, we burn off self-grasping or volitional formations. So we eliminate our egoic mind.
You stop grasping.
And then,
which is thirsting. And when you stop thirsting, you stop grasping.
And
so on and so
what
forth.
Does that cause? Then, how can that cause non-consciousness or non-discernment? Isn't discernment good to have?
Of course it is.
Then if we eliminate ignorance, wouldn't that eliminate discernment? Or is discernment something? Is discernment something biological? Because vijnana. Oh, vijnana. That's what Kenneth Wheeler said was jnana is vijnana is consciousness, he said, and that's like non-knowledge. There's jnana, the Enya is like knowledge, gnosis.
Ena is knowledge. Yes.
And then
gnosis.
V makes it like opposite of it. Or maybe, no, it's embodiment of it. So maybe it means that we need to have a biological basis in order to have this kind of consciousness. And there's the eye consciousness, ear, nose, etc. And then through that, we can see forms and name and form. So we give names to the forms we see. And without that, we couldn't go after things. And then that develops the sixth sense basis. And then when we see something, we make contact with it, and that produces a certain feeling like, ooh, this is hot, or this is cold, or I don't like this, or I like that. And that causes craving because now we want it, or we hate it. And then we cling to it and grasp it and possess it. And then because of that, we develop we have to develop an existence for it, a way of life. And then we do it again and again, and we die. No? There's aging and decay. This is called aging. Whatever deceasing, passing away, breaking up. Let's see. There's an alternative lists in other sources. Name and form. There was what Luis del Pino pointed out, that there was a correlation with the 5 aggregates. So perhaps the 5 aggregates is the basis of the codependent arisings. It came from older lists. So the 12-fold chain resulted from Buddha's combination of 2 earlier lists. The appearance of dukkha comes from tanha, thirst, craving. Later on, the Buddha said, let's add avidya, ignorance. That is the cause of it all. So, what have we learned today? That we have to be mindful of our arisings. Could our arisings, mental arisings, be fooling us? Oh. Stop sharing. What do you think, Luis Del Pino?
Well, you did the whole journey by yourself,
So now I'm
which is
enlightened.
what everyone has to do.
Oui.
You feel enlightened?
Yes, I heard the bell. That means that I'm enlightened. This bell, this is the baby
You
monitor.
heard the bells of heaven.
This is a
What's
baby
that?
monitor.
Oh, nice.
Care, wait, care, caregiver alert monitor.
Holy moly.
Ah,
Somebody's calling you?
Mike. This means that my mother is trying to get out of bed. So I will attend to her, and you will attend to Mike.
All right.
Hello,
Good morning, Mike.
how are you doing?
Doing very well. How are you?
Thank you. Well, nothing has dropped off so far. Either
Well,
that I notice or that I need.
That's wonderful. So steady as she goes, just like in the Navy. But I contend, Heido is tending to his mom. He has a monitor to take care of his mother, and he had 2 weeks. But so I welcome you on his behalf and mine.
His spirit is still here.
That's correct. I propose that nothing can leave reality. So wherever we are, we're still here. Wherever we go, there we are, because we are reality.
Well, I tend to suspect that nothing can leave surreality.
Either, because surreality is part of reality.
No,
There's
no, you've got it the wrong way around.
So reality is reality?
Is merely a variation on surreality.
Oh, surreality. So you are writing your book still? You're working on editing and publishing your book still? Is that your main activity right now?
Well, I just got a copy of the math book. Okay.
So it's done.
Yeah, it's done and it's ready to be shoved out the door.
Wow. And the title of it is going to be, or is already, what is the title of the book?
Well, let me see if I can get it on the camera.
Algebra 101. Oh, it's a thick one. An introduction to geometric algebra and geometric calculus.
Yes.
That's a big introduction there. Introductions are normally very brief, but this one is a big introduction.
Not in mathematics.
Nothing is small in mathematics.
In mathematics, you will run across introduction to semi-cactoid demoids, volume 1. Okay.
To be followed by 15 volumes.
Something like that.
All right. Well, you put in a lot of work into that one. I can imagine a lot of work.
Yeah, maybe 9 or 10 years worth of work. But you have to understand, I had to learn all the material.
Yeah.
I could tell it was something interesting, but I didn't know.
So that's the same. I can make a parallel between your 10 years of effort in writing this book, which is that means that you coalesced or verbalized a knowledge, and apparently knowledge for you, and my own journey, the hero's journey, which taken me twice as long, because I started when I was 38, so 62. I haven't written a book, but it's right here. You know, it's been written in my mind, where I feel exactly what you just said, that in order to write my book, I had to learn everything that I was collecting all around me. I was reading here, reading there. Then I was comparing, thinking, analyzing, processing. And of that, I would distill some kind of a bit of information, like a formula, or some kind of a stable declaration regarding the nature of reality. For example, something that I did not think about before, that everything is in constant flux. That, you know, they call it anicca. Everything is impermanent. Nothing stays the same. Even the string wiggles. Not only vibrates and wiggles, but also disappears and becomes zero. So if at that level everything is changing constantly, everything is just like a soup of carrots and, you know, pieces of celery and water and particles and everything. I never thought about that, but it is an important building block of my book, of my introduction to the nature of being. So I make a parallel. We have followed the same kind of exercise routine of study, pondering, analyzing, and then forming some kind of a truth, however relative maybe, but some kind of insight. Let's put it that way. So that's very interesting, and I wish I could understand mathematics more deeply to enjoy your book, because I feel that you have something important to say there that you felt before was not said. Then you have to go, okay, I'm going to study this in depth, and I'm going to come up with some insights. Am I off?
You could understand it, but
If I put in 20 years,
yeah, well, to begin.
to begin.
And also there arises the question, which is a real question, as to whether or not it is something that really matters to you. Something that is so
I suspect
that you would put in that much effort. And it's perfectly reasonable for most people. 99% say no. There are many other things.
Even if I don't understand it, because I propose that there's only one reality, and everything in it is of reality, and I am it. To me, everything is important, whether I understand it or not. And in this case, I wish I could understand the underlying importance of your message, of your introduction. What is the most fundamental thing that that book is telling us that was not said before, or that was said from a different perspective or from a different angle?
Well, I'm not thinking of it quite that way. What I'm thinking of is this is a beautiful and fundamental piece of mathematics which unites a number of facts, bits and pieces of mathematical disciplines, and has a lot of geometry, intuition, which is hidden in it, which, although it is well known to certain advanced mathematicians, it is not known to the majority of mathematicians. And for those advanced ones who know about it, they, as a general rule, do not look at it from what I think of as a sort of intuitive, more primitive level. They think about it on a very high, very abstract level, and often miss the intuition which is hidden in it. And this is the sort of thing that I wanted to put out there for those people who happened across it, who recognized it as something of interest, because I did not see a comparable work that made it available in the way that I wanted it made available. Now, there are a number of books written by mathematical physicists and even by some applied mathematicians and by computer scientists who deal with this material, but they don't deal with it with the kind of care and precision that a mathematician would use in handling the material. Or they don't deal with it with the kind of feel for rather low-level intuition that I think can be found in it and would make it accessible to a large number of people in mathematics and in related disciplines. So,
even in philosophy?
Possibly philosophy, but I'm thinking more of things like image processing, engineering problems, physics problems, possibly statistical problems, etc. I'm thinking of fairly hard science and engineering applications at this point. Philosophy, I'm not that sure of. Now, if you want to get into philosophy, what is much more relevant, what I've been looking at recently, is classical logic, which is basically logics where it makes sense to talk about statements being both true and false at the same time. Or neither true nor false.
Right. See, when you talk about this low-level intuition, which I would say almost is high-level intuition, because that intuition goes beyond all the knowledge at the conventional mathematical scientific level.
Now,
that is
correct, by the way.
Low level and high level?
Yes, because from the point of view of someone who is a mathematician, I am trying to get over a low-level feeling for some of these ideas. From the point of view of the ordinary person, I am speaking in tongues, and it may be Attic Greek.
Indeed. I feel many times I speak in tongues. And I'm not using mathematical language. When I say that 0 is 1 and 1 is 0, in essence, people are just being bewildered. 0 is 0 and 1 is 1. But of course, when I have to, even when I try to explain that 0 looks different than 1, or feels different than 1, because 1 you can kind of touch and feel, you can go, okay, there is 1. And you put 2 ones together and you call it 2, but you still have to feel each one of them, touch it. It's a phenomenon that you can measure, you can feel, you can see, you can detect, you can contact with. Oh, the big guru, the great guru has looked at me.
Cat wants to know, how does 0 taste?
Oh, you know,
Does it run fast?
the Tibetans, some Tibetans think that the cats have the third eye, and they are just as wise as the Buddha. But when I talk in tongues when I say that 0 is 1 and 1 is 0. And then I try to explain that what I'm saying is that they are essentially the same reality that has both qualities, both aspects, but the one reality is then both as 0 and 1, and any addition of ones after that up to infinity, which you could call a big, 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 eternal and infinite one. I speak in tongues, but I don't use mathematical terminology. And I understand what you're saying, that you're trying to express something that is intuitive, and yet when you use words, people don't understand what you're talking about. Your formulas, your words, which are symbols, your letters are symbols. And the symbols are then words, because a symbol in mathematics means a sentence, the sum of all this and that, with the exception of this or that and the other, etc., etc. So you're re-speaking reality with a different language, but we're talking about the same reality. We look at it from a different perspective. You know. So to me, it's very interesting. I wish I could understand. You know, I wish I could read and understand the book. I doubt I'm going to understand anything in it. But if I could have somebody translating the things to me, I could make perspectivizing parables or comparisons with my way of looking at reality. Because you're looking at the same reality I'm looking at. You're describing it with a different language and from different perspectives, different interests.
Well, when I present material, I am very conscious that there are multiple audiences out there, and I'm not aiming at everyone.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
I'm assuming that I'm dealing with people of a certain kind at a certain level. As a matter of fact, the very beginning of the book, after the introduction, says, things it would be well to know. And then there is a listing of mathematical topics, concepts, and results that the reader ought to have encountered and have some intuition and feeling for in order to proceed further.
Yes.
So that's one of the things which, of course, is extremely important in carrying out this communication process. Another thing is you have to find, in some sense, people who are interested in what you're saying, to the extent of having the preparation and the commitment to make some progress in it. But there is another element of it. And this can easily crop up in connection, I think, with the kind of thing that you're trying to get at. You have to communicate with people in terms of concepts, pictures, words, whatever, which you hold in common. Okay?
Be understood.
Right. You know, and of course,
The familiarity with the concepts. You know, I know what you're talking about. I know where you're coming from. I know what you are trying to describe and what perspective you're looking at it from. Yes.
yes.
If not, you don't understand. It's a completely different
Right. So you have to be willing to talk about raindrops and puppy dogs.
That's me.
Okay? And
That's me.
and I have the impression that when you get to 0 is 1, you are appealing to something which is not in the reference library of most people.
Yep,
So,
it's true. Let me ask you a question, Mike.
now let me go on just a little bit more.
By all means, yes.
This whole business of communicating something is itself a discipline, and it can be an extremely difficult discipline. I speak this from the perspective of someone who has spent time thinking about how do I communicate mathematics, and has also spent time thinking about, if I write fiction, how do I get across to people the scenes and the emotions that I want to convey? How do I get you to see the thing I want? And this is a difficult thing that one has to work on.
Indeed. I mean, it's really true, really true. Very difficult to convey ideas, especially abstractions, subtleties, things that you know, it's difficult. I find it very difficult, and I do that with myself. As a matter of fact, although I have this low base and high base intuition, I have the feeling that I am experiencing the whole fully without any filter. My consciousness I describe as a superconductor, where reality sees itself fully with no filter, no bias. It just sees itself as it is. The whole sees itself wholly through its relative and partial part. Because of course the part is always less than the whole. It's just part of the whole. But just for a second, what I try to permeate through is there is a possibility that the whole can experience itself fully through its part. It's difficult to describe that. As a matter of fact, I had a discussion with a remote friend in Spain. He was telling me, I'm trying to get to God, I'm trying to get to pure being. And he made me re-verbalize my own thing, saying, at the end, the mind at the end of its tether, when you run out of yourself, the part steps out of itself into the whole. That is, it has to be an experience that is beyond language, beyond formulation.
You may indeed be experiencing reality in a way which is different from the way that most people do.
Everybody experiences reality in its own way.
Now, if this is the sort of thing that's happening, then you probably need to bring that out. You probably need to look at that and decide whether or not that's a sensible description of what goes on in your own head. And then you need to bring that out in order to clarify what's going on.
Yes.
I know if I do mathematics, I am not concerned with, and I do not get into what would be regarded as a different state of consciousness. What happens when I do mathematics is I extend, in some sense, the contents of ordinary consciousness to a realm which is not normally reached.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So we're in the same endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
So you are expanding consciousness. I am stepping out of it.
Now,
That goes beyond mathematics.
you might find it interesting to read and see if it has any bearing on what's happening, what's going on in your mind. A book by W.T. Stace.
Hold a second. W.T. Stace.
A-C-E.
Okay.
Now, this was a philosopher of mysticism.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And he wrote a couple of quite interesting books on this. One of them was a straight philosophical book trying to discuss mysticism. One of them, the other one, which I think is perhaps more relevant in your case, is he wanted to argue that there is a state of consciousness which he called mystical consciousness, which really occurs through many cultures and many times,
Yes.
and is written about. And in his book, he had excerpts from many sorts of writings, and he identified characteristics
Of that state of mind.
yes, as to build an argument that there was this state of mind that was the same, that was constantly occurring,
Yes.
which had a certain content to it.
That's what Maslow calls the peak moment. What Buddha describes as nirvana, the Hindus describe as moksha, the Christian mystics call the mystic union, etc., etc., etc. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So that again, I thank you very much. I'm going to read this guide for sure. See how many different ways there are to describe the indescribable state of consciousness stepping out of itself into the whole, which is transcendent, which is everything and nothing at the same time, beyond space-time. That's where, everything is, but only potentially, like Bohm describes the implicate order versus the explicate order. So thank you very much for that. Now, next question. In your studies and in your effort for the last 10 years in verbalizing mathematically these new insights that you have you discussed this with all the mathematicians that might somehow understand your what you go into, what you're trying to elucidate in mathematical terms, and the potentials that you see there by looking at mathematics from different perspectives or different insights? Have you been able to get some feedback from all the professionals in the field? And do you feel that they understand somehow where you're going with this?
Well, I did a seminar for a while with a colleague of mine looking at some of this material. And then I retired, and after a while the seminar got broken off.
Was it recorded?
No. It was a very informal math seminar. I would go in and I would tell him what I had learned, and he would look at that and ask questions. He's a great fellow. And I know in the department people who I have no hesitation in describing as being more capable and brighter than I am, and this was one of those people. And he seemed to think, this was interesting material, although he himself was not putting any great effort into doing anything with it. I've been in communication by email with a fellow out in Iowa, another retired math professor, who got me interested in geometric algebra. And I've exchanged a few things with him. And other than that, it's been a matter of just my reading stuff, putting it together, and in effect, reincarnating a lot of this knowledge which I can find in different sources.
Everywhere.
I feel
like
is
peppered.
Right, in a more appropriate.
Yeah. See, that's another thing that I find in my kind of mathematics. I don't know what to call my way of thinking. I see this kind of knowledge or gnosis peppered throughout everything, every science, the hard sciences and the soft sciences. It's just like something that is everywhere, and if you pay attention, you can connect the dots. You know, and the whole array of knowledge, the human mind, which I know very well. I don't have a PhD in all the sciences, but this knowledge is transcendental, which means that you don't have to know every phenomenon, but you know the nature of any phenomenon and the nature of non-phenomenon, the noumenon, the zero Kelvin, which is indescribable. So you don't have anything to measure there. When you go to zero, there's nothing to look at, and you cannot measure time or space if there's nothing in it to measure. So time and space are metaphysical a priori, like Kant used to say. So basically, if there's nothing in them to be measured, you cannot measure space or time. There's no change. Nothing is happening. So there's no measurement. And of course, this is a mental exercise, because if you are in zero, you don't exist either. You're looking at yourself and, okay, I'm nothing. But I see this kind of intuition peppered, tiny little bits of it everywhere. Whereas before I didn't, because I didn't look for that new algebra. I didn't look for that new perspective. Mm-hmm. So you are alone in your field, in a sense. There's a lot of mathematicians.
A lot of people working in the field, and they have conferences. Mm-hmm. But I have really no great contact with those people. I haven't gone to any conferences.
Is your book for sale? I would like to buy it. I'm not going to understand it, but
I think it goes on sale August 1st.
On Amazon?
No. What you have to do is probably look up the title and the author. And,
okay.
It's to be
Mike. And what is your last name?
It would be under M.D. Taylor, I think.
M.D. Taylor.
Yeah. And it would be an introduction.
Intro to
geometric algebra.
Geometric algebra. Okay. Algebra. Okay.
And geometric calculus.
And geometric calculus. Okay. I'm going to buy it, just for the hell of it. I'm going to be your first customer. How about that?
Right.
Hope it's not too expensive. What's the retail that you have established for it?
Well, if you want, I could see about getting you a copy and sending you one.
No, I want to distribute. Your effort for 10 years deserves me buying whatever it takes to get it.
The price on it is $30.
Okay, I'll be glad to go ahead and spend $30.
Okay, for a math book of that sort, that is a low price.
Mhm.
You know,
I can understand that.
when I retired, calculus texts, which are thicker than mine, were going for $100. Okay? And when I look at very specialized books right now in mathematics, on advanced topics, they are selling for prices like $60, $70, $90, $100. By the way, it's a business model which is not sustainable, because if you look at any one of those books and you see, oh, it's selling for $80, and then you start looking for other publishers, after a while you find there's a copy of it for sale for $25.
Wow.
Okay, but this is because somebody took a camera and some OCR software.
Right. They copied it, and like the Chinese, they copy it and sell for cheap.
Yes.
I follow some few mathematicians. One of them is the French Fields Medal winner, who stopped being a mathematician and became a politician in France. But he's a crazy guy, but he's very brilliant, very open-minded.
Mm-hmm.
What's his name? I'll come up with it. Okay. I wonder if you're able to try to reach to those mathematicians that are out there trying to look for something different. You know, they're trying to expand the bubble, the mathematical bubble, stretch it by outrageously, working the perspectives and the formulas.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's not easy to do that because they have so many other mathematicians trying to knock at their door and say, hey, would you read this? Would you consider this? It's almost a...
Well, if you want tenure, if you want a pay raise,
yeah,
you're going to work in the fields which are populated by the important mathematicians.
Right. I see. Let me see if I can. I'm sure you must know it. Cédric Villani. Cédric Villani.
Cedric? How do you spell
Cédric Villani. Villani.
Not familiar with him.
He's the director of the Poincaré Mathematics Institute,
Mm-hmm.
the university in France. Fields Medal awarded in 2010. He became kind of a guy that talked about mathematics. He talked about the history of mathematics and showing how bright the French mathematicians had always been. He was a little bit biased on that. And he worked on partial differential equations. He, especially on Boltzmann equation. So I found him a Ricci curvature.
Mm-hmm.
So, he was big in his field. He made it a big stink. And all that was geometrical.
Okay.
I don't know if it was geometrical algebra, but it sounded like it.
Well, I would think of the geometric calculus as being something that would probably apply to what he was doing.
Okay. Anyway, so I was thinking that maybe part of your marketing effort would be to try to reach out, because being a mathematician yourself, you can knock on some doors and go, hey, here, read this and see what you think about it. That's what mathematicians do, right? Unless they're very politicized or very enclosed in their own little bubble.
Well, I'm sure some of them do that. I don't know that I ever got around to doing that. I worked in a research field, and I went to conferences, and I got to know people, and I had people sending me stuff. And then when they sent me stuff, from time to time, there was some reason to comment on it, and I would comment and do what I
Welcome back. Let's see. Oh, Mike is back. Thanks for coming back, Mike Taylor.
Yes.
Luis will be back in shortly.
Right.
Let's see. Okay.
Did he go off on the wrong branch of reality?
Yes, he's looking for us. So he's going to change to an alternate reality. Oh, but he only believes in one reality, so maybe he'll never come back. He'll be stuck in that reality thinking it's the only one.
Reincarnated.
Yes. So this is session number 3 of Wake Up and Think Critically, Clearly, Decisively, Concisely, all kinds of Lees. Bruce Lee. Think Bruce Lee.
Think excessively and circularly.
Circularly. So what have we learned today?
Have you lost him in hyperspace?
Oh. Maybe he had to go. I had to get I got my phone. Ooh, what is that? Contacts. Calling Luis Del Pino. Hello? Hello? Is this Luis Del Pino? Hmm. Are you, yes, we're in round three, and Mike has joined us. Do you wish to continue the conversation? You're gonna you're gonna join in to say goodbye because you have a lot of things to do. Okay. See you then. He'll be joining in to he has some things to do. Let's see. Get ready to admit him. Maybe I should set it so that anybody can join without admitting. Hmm. He knocked on the door. I let him in. Hmm. Oh, there's Luis. Oh, he looks thinner without his headphones. Oh, now he looks thicker.
I have a tiny head full of ideas.
Now you have decided to rise from the dead for a moment
Well,
in order to just
I
wait
felt mortified because I could, it's like we're being disconnected. I cannot, I don't have your phone number. I could not send you an email. I was like, okay, that's it. I just wanted to, of course, I'm way beyond my turning into a pumpkin time, 8:41. But I wanted to say, thank you for sharing Stace's mystic ideas. I'm going to read that very carefully. I feel you're as misunderstood in your field as I am in my field. It's difficult to get the ideas through. In your new expansion of the bowl of the mathematical consciousness, you are alone. You are at the forefront. I'm sure. I can feel that. You have, I can see that. You are like an Einstein. People are looking at like, what do you mean that space-time is bendable? What do you mean that space-time is, you can bend it with sheer mass, with gravity? And I think he felt like that at the beginning. And I think you are a little bit like that in your own field. And I am, I'm going to try to understand. I'm going to buy your book. I'm going to try to understand because I feel you're on the same hero's journey as I am. In two different sides of the surface of the bubble of consciousness. You're on this side, and I'm on the other side. But of course, there is no real boundary. So we're just two perspectives.
Okay.
Look at the same reality. Just two perspectives. So there's no difference. There's no real difference. Just like there's no real difference between 0 and 1. So I'm very interested now that your work is ready to go, at least to look at it, even if I don't understand the darn thing. Because sometimes you have to look at something you don't understand, it hits you like a ton of bricks. With some other insight or perspective, or super perspective, which goes beyond formulas and words. So I'm very excited about your work.
Well, I think you may get hold of it and look at it and see the neatly precise way that arguments are put together.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Start asking yourself, how can it ever come about that bugs and beetles can build a cathedral?
We are riding on the shoulders of giants, and you're one of them, obviously. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I'm going to have to go. I have stuff to do. Always a phenomenal pleasure and deeply humbled to know all of you. These meetings are like the escaping from the planet of the apes. And I say that with all love for all the apes because I am one of them. So there, have a great weekend. And we will see you all next Saturday. Keep looking up.
Thank you, Luis.
Or
May
if not up, nor right nor left, nor back nor front, then look in that other direction.
Look it in. Look it in.
Thank you, Luis.
You were saying something.
May
Or I just
may you obtain the book of knowledge of Taylorism and the
Absolutely.
the mathematics of it, and apply it to your theory of everything.
That's exactly what I want to do. I want to see if I can use mathematics to talk about the unspeakable.
Just so long as you don't use any dirty math expressions.
I promise. Take care, guys.
Okay, good talking to you. Take
Always,
care.
always, always.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And so, do you have to go have breakfast? Or did you already have breakfast?
Yeah, I'm going to go have breakfast, I think. I was showing Louis that I had finally got my math book in physical existence in this business trying to self-publish. And I was showing him the copy that I ordered. Let's see. I don't know if you can see.
Wow! An introduction to geometric algebra and geometric calculus by M.D. Taylor.
Yeah.
It's in the
Yeah.
New York Times
Didn't
bestseller
know that.
list.
Hmm?
It's in the New York Times bestseller list for
If you
5
didn't
straight
know
weeks.
better, you would think a real book.
It looks like a real book.
But this is a self-published book.
So you had to self-publish it, and then you ordered one?
Yes, I ordered one to see what it's like, and it's gonna go, I think, on sale around the beginning of August.
Wow. May it sell billions and billions. And may, after the world becomes globalized and under one government, it will be placed in elementary algebra classes all throughout the world. Translated into all languages.
Only if the world is governed by Leader Taylor.
By Leader Taylor?
Yes.
Who's that?
That would be me.
Oh.
My first command would be everybody had to buy my book.
Yes. That would be great. Okay.
Just a minute. Come up here. Complain to Hiro.
Oh my gosh. And that's Taylor Jr. No, what's its name? Her name, his name.
Spritzer.
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 That's the famous cat.
Spritzer is a drink with, I think, white wine, and it's bubbly. And he used to be quite bubbly when he was much younger.
Ah,
So I felt this was an appropriate name.
may he continue to bubble your life.
Well, he is around 20 years old at this point.
That's
And the average lifespan for a cat is, I understand, 15.
so that's
So I'm not sure how
130
much longer you're in.
130 years to you and me. So he's older than you are. So
Not that much.
So I'll let you go, and I'll see you next Saturday. Thank you very much for delighting us.
Well, I'm not sure I've delighted anyone. Hopefully I haven't horrified anyone, but if so, they're too polite to tell me. In any event, it was good seeing you.
Good seeing
We'll
you.
talk to you later, and thanks for being a host.
Thank you. It'll be up in a few days. Under tinyurl.com/WU-TC-YT- the date will be 2021-07-24. Oh, but since we have several episodes, it'll be 20. This would be episode 3 or 4. It'd be dash or hyphen 3 or 4. Well, I'll send you the links. So have a wonderful week.
Okay. You too.
Take care. Bye.